Hi, my name is Martin Brock. I'm the executive chef at the restaurant called Atria. I welcome you very much here. And today I'm going to do my roasted chicken with a maple cider reduction, savoy cabbage, and Schupfnudeln for you. So what we're going to do is we start out with the cider reduction because the sauce is always good to have before. If you have ingredients that you don't necessarily make while cooking, it's always good to have the sauce ready to go so that you don't have to stress out once you start plating. So for the first step, we take some shallots, which are chopped already, just 1 tablespoon. Then we're going to take some maple cider vinegar, a little bit of maple syrup, and put that on the stove and reduce it all the way down. And here you can see it's all the way reduced down. It's almost like a caramel. Now we add the chicken stock, which we reduced a little bit earlier. Bring it one more time up to a boil and add some butter to make it smoother and to bind it up a little bit. Whisk the butter in. And there is our sauce. Schupfnudeln is similar to gnocchi, but it's a German product. So it's kind of like a German potato dumpling, but it has a different shape than a dumpling. It's long, almost like a pencil. Now we have our water here, which is boiling by now. And be very carefully roll them in. And we have a spoon here with holes. And we leave them in for about 30 to 40 seconds. It's very easy to know when they're cooked because they come up to the surface. And as soon as they're up, you just take them out and put it in a bowl with ice water to cool it down, to chill it down. All right, that's it. So now what we're going to do is we have our apples here, which are just cut in wedges. I personally prefer the Honeycrisp. It is sweet, it has a little acid to it. It doesn't fall apart when you cook it, so it's a beautiful apple to do that. We're going to take some sugar. First we're going to put up our saute pan. Then we're going to put some sugar into here and let it melt. We call that caramelize. So if you preheat your saute pan, it goes a little faster. You also have to be more careful when you do it. But I just don't put sugar in there and then the liquid, because if I make a caramel, it comes out nicer. It has a nice flavor. It's beautiful. But again, it goes very fast, and you have to play with your pot a little bit. So you take it off and on. Otherwise, certain parts will be already too dark, which will make it bitter. So now that we have that, we add the apples, a little bit of butter, and once your fruit and the butter is in, nothing can really happen to the caramel. They can't really burn. So we leave that on for about 30 seconds, maybe 40. And now we deglaze with a little bit of white wine. Okay. You let that reduce for about 2 or 3 minutes now until it's nice and syrupy and the apple is nice coated into the liquid. Okay, so now it has reduced down for about 2 minutes and it's nice and syrupy and perfectly cooked. It's not overcooked. You shouldn't, if you have a feeling If you have a feeling the apple is overcooked, then just take it out of the liquid and reduce the liquid separately. We add a little bit of chopped rosemary. They give it a nice and earthy flavor and capture the sweetness of the apple a little bit. So now we're going to have our chicken breast here, which is nice trimmed. We're going to turn it around, season it with some salt, a little bit of pepper, I season the skin side last after the cooking because when you season it before, it doesn't become as crispy. So now we're going to take a saute pan, heat it up, add some grapeseed oil. I like to cook with grapeseed oil. It doesn't have too much flavor, and you can heat it up to a very high point. So if you saute stuff, I prefer that. So now we're going to put it in. Let it saute on top for about a minute or two. And I always like to roast it in the oven. It cooks more even. And if you put it on the bottom of the oven, it gives it a nice and crispy skin. And you want to have that. So now you can hear already there's something going on in the pan. You leave it in for another 30 seconds or another minute. You don't want to give it too much heat because then it will burn in the end by the time it's cooked. And put it in the oven. The oven should be around 325 to 350, and you put it on the bottom because there is a consistent heat, and again, your skin will get very crispy. So for our next step, we're going to do our garnish, which is savoy cabbage, just chopped in like 1 inch by 1 inch pieces. A little bit of baby turnips, which I cut in quarters or in 6 pieces, depends how big they are. And some oyster mushrooms. Oyster mushrooms have a beautiful flavor and support the cabbage very well, go well with the Schupfnudeln, with the chicken, and so that's why I chose the oyster mushrooms here. We also put a saute pan on again. Put in some grapeseed oil. And we don't want to give it too much heat, not as much heat as the chicken, otherwise it will burn. So we stir, take it off the heat a little bit, it was pretty hot. We stir the cabbage. Now we add the turnips and the mushrooms. And you need to constantly stir here. The mushrooms always take a lot of oil, so you need a little bit more here. We add some salt. And now we're just going to let it saute on a low heat for about 2, maybe 3 minutes. Add a little bit of pepper. And a little bit of chicken stock. Because again, you don't want to have too much color on that. You want to almost kind of like braise it on an open flame. Now in the end, we're going to add some butter. Butter just rounds up the flavor a little bit in that dish. And a little bit more chicken stock. So here you have a beautiful color. You have green, you have white. It's very fallish. And in the end, we had our apples. So this is our garnish here. The chicken should be ready by now. You take the chicken out of the oven. Flip it over. Now you can see it's nice and crispy. Get rid of the remaining oil. And add a little butter in there. Now we're just going to put it on the side. And let it kind of like rest in the butter. Okay, we start plating. Take our savoy cabbage and apple. Put them on the bottom. And then next is going to be the Schupfnudeln. And now to make our dish a little bit more fancy, we have something Middle Eastern here. It's called silan. It's a date syrup. If you're not able to get that, I get that in Middle Eastern stores. If you're not able to get that, just take a little bit of maple syrup and take a little bit of honey and mix that, and it will be very similar to that. But this has a nice date flavor. Put that over the skin a little bit. And we cut it in half. Add a little bit more salt over it. This is it. So here we have our beautiful cooked chicken, nice and crispy skin. There it is.